time for another 5-minute murder. It's actually Thursday, so I'm doing this a day early to make sure we have this ready for tomorrow. So, we're going to get ready. We're going to do a little 5-minute murder here. Let me pick somebody out. We did a gangster last week. We're going to do somebody else today. So, okay, we haven't done him yet. All right, today, I don't know if you can even see this. It's really bright. But we've got old Dennis Nilsen. So, Dennis Nilsen, born November 23rd, 1945, died on May 12th, 2018. Not too long ago. He murdered at least 12 young men in London, England. Convicted on 6 counts of murder and 2 of attempted murder. His victims were lured through guile and killed by strangulation, accompanied by drowning. After, Nilsen would observe a ritual in which he bathed and dressed the victim's body, which he retained for extended periods of time before dissecting and disposing of the body by burning in a bonfire or flushing down the toilet. So, Dennis Nilsen is also known as the British Jeffrey Dahmer, right? He was a cannibal. He did all kinds of things. He would pick up men. He was very interested in, he was homosexual, and he would pick up other men and bring them home. He would, hang out with them. He would eventually end up strangling them with various items, right? Sometimes he would use, in one instance, he used the headphone cords of one of his that his victim had. He was listening to some music. He would often use a necktie, so he would use his own neckties and strangle them. And then there were several occasions where he did drown people, right? He would drown them and wake them back up, and then drown them again. Really, really crazy stories of what he would do. And then there were people that he let live, which is very interesting to me. Now, Dennis Nilsen is originally a Scottish guy, right? He was from Scotland. He ended up living in London, and he had 2 different houses there. The first house that he had was kind of secluded and kind of out in the woods a little bit, and he would have those bonfires. He would kill his victims, he would dismember them, and then to get rid of the bodies eventually, he would put them on a bonfire, and he would put a tire on top of it, and so that people thought that he was burning tires, right? Because the smell is awful. And so he would mask the smell of the burning flesh with the tire smell, right? And so, but he had this house where he would put people in the floorboards and all kinds of things. He would bring out the bodies. He would set them up in his living room. He would sit with them and watch TV. And just a very, very strange guy. The whole time he had a job, right? He went to work, and nobody had any idea. Now, Dennis was also, before he moved to London, he actually moved to London to become a police officer, right? He was a cop in London. He never really did a whole lot with it. It was for a very short period of time, but he went to the academy. He learned how to be a police officer, and he went out on route, and not out on route, but he went out as an officer, and he ended up, his father died at that time, right? And when his father died, he left him some money. So I guess Dennis at that particular time decided, you know what, maybe being a cop isn't for me, and maybe I'm just going to spend this money, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And so he ended up leaving that place. And actually, I can't remember if it was there that he had his roommate, or if it was at the final apartments that he lived at where he had a roommate for a short time. I think it may have been at the house. But he had a guy that he moved in with. They actually had a relationship for some time, and I think it lasted about 3 years, if I remember correctly. And then they split up. It just wasn't working out, like lots of relationships do. And then after that, he started killing pretty regularly. Dennis did a lot of weird stuff. He was also in the military as well, kind of like Jeffrey Dahmer as well, was in the military. And, Dennis, again, was a drunk. He would drink a lot. He was drinking all the time, and he would do weird stuff. He would lay in bed covered in baby powder with a mirror, and he would pretend that he was dead, and that would sexually arouse him so that he could then get off. Right? He had a real fetish for dead bodies, and again, he would bathe his victims after he killed them, and he would keep their body for some time. He would clean them up and everything. Eventually, when they started to decay, is when he would then dismember them and dispose of the bodies. But he would, he was a necrophiliac. He would have sex with his victims after they were dead, and when they found him, he would have something like 6 different bodies in his apartment, in garbage bags, in the walls, in cupboards, under the floorboards. So when he moved to the apartment, the final place that he lived, he didn't have any place to, it was in kind of the city, and there was no place to dispose of these bodies. So what he ended up doing is cutting them up and flushing them down the toilet. And of course, this is the famous time that, they realize that the toilets are all backed up, and they call in a plumber, and the plumber goes there. And at first he thinks, he doesn't know what that is in the drain when he's pulling it out. And then he realizes it looks like knuckle bones, like human fingers. And Dennis Nilsen actually goes down there and talks to this plumber and says, "Oh man, somebody's flushing the chicken again." And he tries to pass it off like it's chicken. And he leaves, and the next day the plumber comes back, and he comes with his boss this time. And they realize that it's human flesh. And they find almost a full hand. And so they call the police come there, they question Nilsen, and he says, "Oh no, I don't know what's going on." And of course they smell it when they walk in there. And they realize that this guy has been doing it. They arrest him, spends the rest of his life in jail. Like I said, Dennis Nilsen just died a few years ago, like 6 years ago now. He passed away. I don't remember why. I think he may have had a heart attack. But yeah, there is a memoir. There's a book that he wrote that you can read. I listened to some of it, and I watched. There's a documentary. I believe it's on Peacock. Is the one that did that documentary. I could be wrong. It might be Hulu. But anyway, there's a documentary on Dennis Nilsen, and I got to tell you, like, for serial killers, like we're all interested, he has got the most boring voice ever. Because in that documentary, he's speaking, and man, he's boring. I don't know what it is, just his voice is boring. But obviously, like, he was going out there, chatting these guys up, getting them to come back to his house, and then he was killing them. And then having his way with the bodies. So just a crazy, crazy story, but look it up. Dennis Nilsen, the British Jeffrey Dahmer. He's another one wore the crazy glasses, right? And so check it out. Thank you guys for joining us for another 5-minute murder. Check out the profiler. I'm going to put the link in there. Go to the link and sign up to be notified of when the profiler goes live, because it is going to be incredible. It is going to be the #1 true crime party game ever. This game is incredible. You're going to be able to play like an actual, like you're playing CSI live, trying to figure out, investigating the crime scenes, trying to figure out who the killer is, trying to figure out what kind of killer they are. Go and pick up the profiler. I'll show you this too. This is the coolest thing. On the Kickstarter, this is your base game. This is your all-in the black aluminum attaché case. You don't want to miss this shit. Go and check it out. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week for some 5-minute murder. Have you ever wanted to be a detective to investigate the crime scene and catch the criminal? Well, welcome to Death, New Mexico, a town just off the famous Route 666. Pretty quiet town until recently. there have been a string of murders. In the social deduction game, The Profiler, you have 60 minutes to investigate the crime scene, interrogate your witnesses, and determine who the killer is and what kind of killer they are to win. What will happen when you become the Profiler?